Hello and welcome back. We will now start the backend in PHP. So we'll do it above this form. So above the form, we will set and check the actual form for input values. So as usual, let's start by declaring the PHP tag. So this signifies we're about to write PHP. Cool. Now we have 4 values that we are accepting from our form. So that means we need 4 variables to hold our data. So let's type. First, I'll use name and I'll set it to empty. And the rest must follow suit. But instead of writing it this way, we can just shorten it to like this. I'll now just add the gender variable and now the message. So this is like saying name, email, gender, message, they are all empty. This saved us a few lines of code. The next step is to display the variables that we just set. We will put this after the form tag. It's PHP, so start with the PHP command. And now the first thing I want to echo out is I'll use H2 for this and just say the final output of your message is below. And we can add a line break or a new line. The way we do a new line is by typing it this way. So let's save this and say this is what we just did. Now let's echo out the various variables. So the first one will be the name, and let's echo out the line break. I'll copy this. I'll echo the email, a line break after that. Good. So if I save this now, the variables are there, but since we set it to empty, there's no way that you see anything. Good. Now the next step is we will set the values to whatever input was sent by the form after submit. The first condition is if the form is sent, there is a super global variable called the server, which we used in previous lesson, with its value request method. And what this does is check if the request method sent was get, post, put, etc. In our case, we want to make sure it's sent through the post. So let's do that. So let's go above and where should I put this? Let's put this after the body. Alright, now let's put the if condition. So say if server super global and the value, put the request method. So if it's equal to the post method, what do we do with it? Let's check if the HTML has the method post. So this has a post, and the form action, it's on the same page, so index.php. But there is a better way for this using the super global variable self. Let's type that instead. So let's type that using the PHP. Inside of the quotes, I'll start my PHP command again. And now inside of this, I want to echo out the self super global. So it's the same server, but this time we'll change the value to PHP self. Good. Let's make it more secure by removing special characters. So I'll wrap this in the HTML special class. So HTML special class, just like this. And I'll put this inside of it. Alright, so let's save this. Let's check in the HTML first. So this is what we just did. You can't manipulate this. Alright, now we can start receiving input from the form. Let's work on the first value, which is the name. So inside of my if block, the name variable that I set will be equal to, if you remember, everything submitted will be through the post. So the post super global, and the name I gave it was name, just name. So I'll type that name. Now when I save this, reload first and just type my name and click on submit, you can see it's echoing out my name. So all we have to do is just set the rest of the variables through the post the same way we did with the name. But there is one tiny problem. If the user does not type anything and leaves out the form and just sends it just like this, it goes through. We do not want that. We have already learned that doing validation on the front end is also a bad practice, which is if it's front end only. So we use a PHP function called empty. And what this does is it checks if that input is empty. Let's do that. So I'll type an if block here and say empty in parentheses. So what do we want to check for? We want to check for the name. So the post, and what we need is the name, this one. So I'll just copy and paste that. Awesome. So it's saying if it's not empty, the name that was sent, sorry, if it's empty rather, if it's empty, what do? We want to tell the user that the name field is required. So let's echo that out. Name field is required. Awesome. Else, what we want to do, if that wasn't empty, then we want to set the name to the variable name. So this is all what it's doing. Check if it's empty. I misspelled this. Is it empty? Then tell the user that it should fill that input. Else, if it wasn't empty and there was really test, then I want to set the name variable to the input that was received. Well, let me save this and test this out. So everything is empty. Let me reload, and now if I reload, you can see it's telling me name field is required, just like we wrote it here. You can't just send it. So we will just have to repeat these for the rest of the fields to check for all of them. In the next lesson, we will learn about a better way of typing out these error messages, which will make more sense to the user. Alright, catch you in the next lesson.